Right, good morning, team. Pro Bros in the chat. Make sure I've got the setup all good. Ba-da-ba-bum, ba-da-ba-bum. Righto. Morning, team. Been away, looking forward to this. Yep. Our regulars. Good to see you guys here. Sorry about last week. I'll tell you what, still not 100%, but that doesn't mean I can't row. I've been doing this long enough to understand my body and understand how much I can do, hence why my drag factor will probably come down a little bit today. And that's probably, I hope everyone went really well last week. Punched out that 4 minute, boom. Would love to see and hear your comments on that. We can do that now or later, one or the other. But it is something that I obviously, you know, I'm over the hill, should I say. And I was always quite vigilant with how I felt in terms of my body. And, I think that's one thing that people need to learn about themselves over time is when you're feeling a little bit of a niggle, it's easy to say, oh, it's okay, I can manage it. I'll pop some Voltarens and some anti-flams and boom. And then just carry on with what you're doing. And it's a hard thing to do because you want to keep going and you want to keep doing what you're doing, but sometimes that mandatory sort of rest period is what's needed. But life gets in the way. You got to work. You got to deal with your kids. You deal with anything, right? And you still want to keep doing your fitness and all that sort of stuff, which helps with obviously mental health, all that type of thing. Keeps you on the go. But there is ways to do it, right? And so if you're feeling like, you know what, gee, I slept funny, my neck's a bit sore, whatever, you can still do the exercise by using the machine in a way by reducing that drag factor. So you can still get through that range of motion. You can still do what needs to be done, just with that probably little bit less intensity or that little less pressure. And so that's the easiest way to do it, but you have to be able to gauge it yourself. And so hence, yeah, did a couple of rows last week, and I was like, I really want to punch this 4 minutes, but I'm just not. I feel like I'd go way too hard and probably push it a little bit. So I always keep that in the back pocket. Don't worry, I can do it any time that I please. So, oh, Robro, your 4 minutes was pathetic and terrible. No, uh, what it is, right? It is what it is, and that's one of the things is we did the prep, we got to the point, we gave it a nudge, and you got a result, right? And so whatever that result is, good, bad, indifferent, whatever, it just gives you an understanding of your capability, right? And you can use that and be like, right, I know where I'm at. What sort of training do I need to do going forward? How much effort do I need to put in? Do I need to increase some strength work or a little bit more resistance work? Or do I just couldn't keep my rating up? I felt like I slowed it down and it got heavy. So then that's one of those things. It's just like, well, maybe we need to be doing more, more speed work in your training. So it is really about identifying that and looking at what was and saying what can I do differently going forward. Okay. And experience is key. Okay. You could put any person in the world on a rowing machine and say, right, let's do 2K. Right. And I guarantee you that their first result will be terrible. They'll just be like, Jesus, I didn't realize it could have been that hard. Or was it the fact that, oh, actually, I started too slow and I wound it at the finish, or the opposite, went too hard? died, suffered. And so that's one of those things, is it's just making sure that you identify, right? And it's everything that we do on here, whether it's just the training and that sort of thing, gives you benchmarks and it gives you an understanding and an idea of what you're capable of achieving. And if we keep that going, okay, we know what we can do. It means that if things are slightly dropping, you're like, oh, what's happening in life, etc. Or if you're like going, man, I feel like I'm improving a lot, then it's a really good guide on that. Okay. So today we're just going to rip out 30 minutes continuous. Okay. It's a really good chance to just focus on some of the things that you're working on in terms of your movements, in terms of the technique, in terms of the continuous nature of the stroke that we're trying to achieve. Okay. And we'll just be able to roll along around that sort of 22. We might bring it up to 22 for the last 20, 22. We might bring it up to 22 at the last 10 minutes, maybe. We'll see how we go. But it is really just about focusing on that movement because at the end of the day, rowing's a difficult one because there's the only way to get better at rowing is to row. And but at the same time, we're trying to push ourselves. We can't just like faff along and paddle it, so to speak. So we really need to be looking at, the balance between our effort versus sort of our movement that we're trying to achieve, the rhythm, that type of thing. And so these are just really good ways to just focus in on that, okay, with a little bit of time and to just push past that sort of, I guess the mental barrier of, okay, this is 30 minutes, I'm not going to get a break, I can't have a drink, that type of thing. So there's a culmination of that, I guess, mind over matter in a way. Not that we're going to be like smashing it out super hard, but it still all combines, right, as a complex equation in trying to get what we're trying to get, right? What we're trying to achieve, how we're trying to do it. Okay. And so that's what we'll do today. Just really good rhythm. We're just going to look for that nice patience. Okay, good continuous nature of our flow, right? Let's really think about ourselves being with the machine, right? Think about the flywheel and the energy that we use to get it going. Okay, the sequence of our body. Really look to try and nail that drive of the body, okay, through the stroke. So when we're at the front and we've got the patience and we've got the hang out the front, accept that first part, is like that lawnmower. We can't just yank it. We've got to take the speed and we've got to increase it. So when we're around the front, we'll just be patient with that. Really look to hang off it and then create that speed through the stroke. Okay. Use that body movement. We know that our torso is 60 plus percent of our body weight, right? Probably 70. I don't know. I'll Google it at some stage. But that's what creates that momentum. If we can get that drive with the power that we have in our leg muscles, right? Our quads, our hammies, just getting that nice flexion through the hips to really drive that body back. Okay. And while we're doing that, if we're really focused on that hang, just really having that body just hung out there. And remember, we've got such an incredible biomechanics in our body that does really allow us to hold a tremendous amount of weight as we're driving. And so if we can try and stay out of, I guess, the little muscles, the little sort of grabs that we get, I still see it in some of my videos, my arms occasionally I'll get that little bit of a tension, and we get that tension because it allows us to feel the pressure. Okay, and that's one of the things is that, when we lift something, we use those muscles, and what it does is we can feel the weight of it. Okay, but if we can slightly shift the mindset when we're here on the road to be like, actually, I really want to feel like I'm strung out, right? I'm almost to a point where if you were to push too hard, it feels like, you can't hold on to it because your fingers are going to be the thing that will let go first. Okay, even though we've got tremendous grip strength, We want to make sure that we can really use that body to feel the hang, okay? And as we come through and we get that combination of the leg drive, the body weight coming through, okay? And then it allows the stroke to finish itself off, okay? And I can't stress that enough. The finish needs to, all we're doing is as the body swung back and the handles are coming, is that it's holding that speed that's been created by the legs and the body with the handle, and then we are trying to maintain the speed. Okay, we're not trying to increase the speed. Okay, there's no point in trying to give it anything more at the finish because it's not going to happen. But the better we can try and get that whole movement to be smooth. Okay, and what I mean by smooth is that it's probably a good chance today to, halfway through or something like that, if you press the second button down, during one of your strokes, you'll see your force curve. Okay. And it's a really good tool every now and again just to see whether or not we can create a smooth curve. Now, doesn't matter if it's front ended, back ended, that sort of thing. That just shows what we're currently doing in terms of our technique, right? Whether if it's front ended, we're probably giving it a little much at the front, or we're using the body just a tad early. But if we can really try and create that semicircle, right, that sort of bell curve type style, then that shows us that what's happening is through that drive, all of the parts are overlapping one another. Okay. If we're seeing jagged points and that type of thing, what it's meaning is that at some point there's like a disconnect which is causing like a spike or a drop or whatever in power. And so, if we can smooth that out, the more we can smooth that out and the more that we can train that into our bodies, okay, the better chance we have of maintaining that. And because once we get under pressure and once we get under stress, that type of thing, those little idiosyncrasies of like like the spiky bits on that force curve, that's where like different muscle groups are firing at like different times, and that's that really zaps your energy. Okay, whereas when we're looking for this nice smooth movement, this nice smooth curve, that's really where we're getting a nice movement with the whole body. Okay, and then the whole idea around it, and I'm sure. I'll put my hand up and say many a time, especially as I was learning how to do this, or you'll get to points when you're doing certain pieces where you'll be like, fuck this, I felt my arms or my shoulders or geez, even my legs just felt like they were burning, and there's a disparity between all the parts of your body. When we finish like a really tough piece or something like that, we want everything to feel exhausted. Okay. Whereas if we're like, man, I can't hold on to it, my forearms are pumped, that type of thing, we've got a disparity. Okay. And so we're just trying to bring that disparity as low as we can so that we've got a whole combined use of our body for the stroke. Okay. Beautiful. So that's enough chit chat of the start. So, um, as I say, I'm just going to drop this down to about a 3.5, maybe, for myself today. We'll just get warmed up a little bit. I'm sure you guys have probably been warming up as I've been chit chatting. Okay. And we're just really going to look today, as I say, for that smoothness of the stroke. Okay. It might even be useful now while we're warming up to, press that second button down. And while we're not really putting in any pressure, so to speak, just look to see how your curve looks. Okay. Can we even now just try and make it smooth? Okay, so the line, you'll see that there's bloody 100 or so dots on the screen, but we want to try and make that line as smooth as possible. Okay, as I say, if it's front ended, okay, the curve, we're normally probably a little bit focused on the front pressure of the stroke, or if there's a little bit too much at the back, we're probably, you know, focused on the body or the second half of our stroke. And so we're really just trying to make it ideally, okay, it was very hard to do. Even the best people in the world won't do it. It made, just kidding. Nice semicircle. Okay, so as we loosen up, as we get that little bit more flexibility, letting those legs, the ankles, relaxation, okay, and those joints, elastic, okay? And I can't stress enough how that elasticity is super vital, okay? To train into ourselves, especially when we're at a lower rate, as to being able to be set, be stable, okay, but also be supple. Okay, too much rigidity. Okay, we're too rigid in our movements. Okay, it's really hard to blend the movements and the forces together. Okay, it becomes very, you know, mechanical. So we're just looking for that blend of those forces, the body, to be able to move freely, to be able to feel that work pressure, but then the recovery and our setup ready for the next stroke. Okay. So nice push. We're starting to turn a little bit more. Rolling forward smoothly. Remember that chain doing the work for us. Okay? Be nice and floppy, so to speak. It's a tool that we often use, and we said, be floppy, because if you're in water, you know, when we were rowing along, you had a little bit of wash come in and you're stiff, your body's like, oh, trying to counteract the the waves. But if you're smooth, if you're supple, if you're slightly floppy, you could just roll through it while still being in the form and holding yourself. Okay, just a couple more here. Nice. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, so as I mentioned before, if you'd like to, horse curve. Uh, as I've always said, try not to religiously look at it every single stroke. Okay, I know it's a hard thing to do, because we're the one thing that Concept 2 could do really well, uh, and I think it does do it. I think it does do it on the website, on the logbook, is create your line of, like, your average. Could be wrong. Um, I haven't used it for a while. But if we look at it from stroke to stroke, it's going to be completely different, right? It'd be so hard to get the same stroke every single time. Okay, there's going to be slight variations here and there, really slight. So what we want to do is see the trend. Okay, you want to look at it for half a dozen strokes, 30 seconds. Okay, I can see where that's generally happening. And then that allows us to be like, okay, let's hang off the front a little bit more. Let's be a little bit more patient off the catch. Okay, that's changed the stroke. So I get the feeling and it's the feedback, it's direct, it's right there. Okay, and then you can work on it from there. Okay, if it becomes too much, so say just come in, press the top button or whatever, you go back to your normal screen, boom, job done. Okay. But it is a good tool every now and again to have on screen just to give you an idea. Okay. It's probably the most underutilized feature on the Concept 2 is the force curve. Okay, because it is an absolute direct reflection of your force that you are applying, and it's right there in front of you. Okay. And that's something as well, at the end of it, if you do use it, you can ask a few questions about it. Say my force curve looks like a monkey fucking a cricket ball or something, and I'll be like, okay, well, a little bit wobbly at the back end. Let's talk about it. A little bit wobbly at the front. Let's talk about it, whatever. But let's just try and look for that real good smoothness as we're rolling along. And remember, this 30 minutes, we just get into a rhythm and we just swing along. Okay, we're just going to roll along, get a nice pace, nice flow going, see how consistent we can be. Put ourselves into an energy expenditure zone of a nice training environment, good cardiovascular aerobic space. Okay, not super hard, and look at what changes we can do. Look at our focus on our technique. Look at what cause and effect. We try this, we focus more on that. What affects this? Okay. That's the goal for today. Beautiful. Okay. Right. Rock and roll time. Select workout, new workout, single time, 30 minutes is already on the screen. Okay. The only thing I always do is I go and change that split time to 5 minutes, only because I'm probably a bit OCD. I'd like to see every 5. Sometimes it's normally just 10. Okay. Um, it just allows you to be like, okay, the first 5 minutes is always going to be slow, right? We're building into it. And then bang, 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 bang. Can I have the rest of them nice and consistent? And then you can look back on it and say, hey, there was a part here from sort of 15 to 10. Beautiful. Felt great. Might be wobbled off it a little bit. And you can go back and have a look at it. Okay. Right. Checkbox time. Rock and roll time. Here we go. Nice rhythm, nice pace, smoothness. We'll roll through everything. Okay, let's go. Okay, are you ready? Attention, go. I'm just building that pressure, building that flywheel. Okay, nice movement here. Okay, starting off here by feeling the pressure that we're applying, the push, okay, the hang, okay, both feet, continuous motion. Okay, focus on that hang and that take up around the front. Okay, good. So getting into a nice rhythm, nice space. Okay. Locking in this ratio. We're on the rating. We can just swing along. Okay. Feeling that hang. The stability for our core. Remember, we should be able to breathe. We shouldn't be tensing super hard on that drive. There should be muscle tension, okay, but not forced muscle tension, okay? The flywheel spinning. We're coming back to pick up the speed of the flywheel. And just rolling along. Nice application. Put those arms out long. Elastic with our body compression. Okay. Not tense on the handle. Okay, we're just trying to hold. We've got enough, I guess, control on our handle to try and hold it parallel. You know, any change in vertical direction means that the body has to do something to counter, because when we come out of that front, it's always going to be at that point. So let's take it back to that point. Good. Remember, once we finish the stroke, round with the hands, try not to pause at the finish. Keep it continuous. Speed in, speed out. Good. And then as we pivot, we change that angle of our hips. We start bringing the shoulders forward. Okay, starting to get into that set up position. And then as we come forward, remember, try and make it feel like one speed. Okay, one speed. And then the body decelerate for us, okay, into that position. Don't have to try and slow ourselves down. Roll, okay? Roll, compress, okay? Natural compression. Right? And as we're naturally compressing and we feel ourselves coming to a halt or the stop, we're changing direction, we're prepared for it, okay? And then we can be patient around that turn. And then we can feel that take up as we're pushing back, okay? Pushing the body back. Good. Remember that finish as well. Don't lock these knees down. Okay, they need to be pushed to a point where they're supple, and then they allow an ease of break. Okay, that soft knee break here just naturally happens. Whereas when we're locked out, there's that jerkiness as we try and create the setup. Okay. So nice and consistent. Looking at our trend and our numbers and our force. Good. Right. So remember this hang, armpits hanging down on the lats, trying to make sure we're not really going upstairs. Okay, shoulders shouldn't come up towards the ears. We're trying to keep it low and flat. Good. So keep thinking about that hang, that low and flat push. Once the body is driving, just let these hands come to us. Okay? Hold the speed of the handle with the arms. Okay. Think about it being just a continuation of the swing rather than an addition of trying to get it into the body. Okay. We've still got pressure, we're still feeling the weight transfer from that hang and then into sort of that tricep sort of shoulder blade area, okay? But it's only to hold what we've created. Ain't good? Nice momentum around. That finish. Brushing that body. Finding our own breathing rhythm. Good. Patience. Good. Oh, nice. Pressure. Feel the increase in that speed of the flywheel through the drive. Okay, listen to it. Smooth overlap of these forces. Good. Nice. Okay. Good rhythm here. We're swinging away. With a nice effort. Okay, nice output. And think about these hands again. Think about the control we have in our handle height. Okay. Think about the grip that you've got on the handle. Okay. Are we really gripping it tight? Or we trying to have a nice flat hang with some cupped fingers? Ain't too much weight or, sorry, grip on the hand leads to a lot of tension in our forearms. Okay. And it can slow our setup because we're tense here. Okay. And we sort of got to throw it away or catch up on our rhythm rather than feeling the pressure in those fingers, the arms, through the hang, through the finish, trying to keep it nice and parallel. And then as we brush that body, we're nice and loose. We can just let the handle start to recoil, okay, with the elasticness of the machine. We've got a nice finish. Hands leading that body to create that rebounding posture. Okay. We're rolling into the front. Take a few here to just feel ourselves come to that compression point naturally. Yeah. Okay. We don't have tension trying to hold our ankles or our heels down. We're just rolling, getting that posture set on the way forward. Okay. Remember, we don't need to be set and then hold. Okay. Too rigid. 95% there. That last bit happens as we compress into the front. Okay. Good. Nice push. And both feet. Feel the pressure on those soles of the feet as we're firing these big muscles in the legs, holding the stability through our core, our lower back. And we're feeling those glute muscles, back muscles. Carry that pressure through that transition of the body coming off the legs, okay? So we press and we're opening the body out while hanging on the handles, hanging under the armpits. Okay, good. Nice. Nice structure, nice posture, nice rhythm. Okay. Breathe. No tension in the neck or shoulders. We've got the flywheel spinning. We're rolling in to pick it up and get it back to where it was. Trying to do that as smoothly and efficiently as we can on repeat. Cool. Okay, hang again. Long arms. Body. Mental compression into the front. Holding ourselves in a nice, stable position. Good. And feel that roll. One speed into the front. Body puts the brakes on. Not trying to slow ourselves down. Body does that for us, okay? Nice. So there's a nice recovery there, which shouldn't require a huge amount of effort, okay? Yes, there's a bit of effort to create and get our body posture. We shouldn't be forcing anything, okay? We want to use the energy on the production of our speed, okay? So let's think about this dry phase, the legs initiating with that hang. Good. Feeling the drive. We've got that core stability once we start driving, okay? For that first part, we're holding the posture, but then as legs are pushing, we're starting to drive the body back, okay? Overlapping those transitions, making them smooth, molding them together. Good. Nice. Listen, okay? Feel what you're doing. Looking for continuous motion, a work rest ratio, using the recoil of the machine to assist us forward. And have a look at our chains. How much vibration do we have? And we try and keep it reasonably parallel. Good. Feel the taker. Nice. Double check our posture coming into the front. So that extension, that stretch under the armpits and the lats. Okay. Good. Good motion. Okay, have a look, have a feel of this handle around the finish. We're not bruising our sternum. We're holding the pressure and then releasing it around. Okay. Good. And nice push. Feel that pressure difference in our feet. Okay. Feel the changes through the stroke, through the drive, through the recovery. They're doing different things. Okay, we shouldn't get cramp in our toes and trying to hold or point. We can feel that strap when we feel the change. And then we can feel that platform, that foot stretcher as we press off it to get that flywheel moving back up to speed. Okay, good. Okay, remember our smoothness. Locking in this movement. Good. Lovely. Okay. Nice and relaxed. Holding good structure, good posture. Good rhythm. Lovely. Smooth application. Beautiful. Nice. Okay. Really good. Okay. I don't know about you guys, but I'd feel my disparity in my stroke definitely in that sort of last 10 minutes. Felt like I'd probably have a wider variation of my trend, so to speak. Okay. And that's always down to fatigue, muscle fatigue in certain areas, focusing on different things, trying to bring it all together. You know, that's it's what happens when we train. Okay. But as we go through it, it's focusing, rechecking. And that's the upstairs part of trying to hold and maintain our rhythm. Okay. Working on one thing, but knowing that it affects another. trying to bring them all together, okay, to get that nice movement and that nice speed, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Happens to everybody because, as I said before, you start to, if you're sitting here now going, oh, I feel, you know, really sore in my glutes or something like that, or different parts of your body, probably means you're focused on that area or you're focused on another area, which has affected that one, okay? And that's trying to identify and saying, well, actually, yeah, I really hung well today, but maybe I feel a little bit tight up here in my tracks. Okay. And it could just be that because you've been focused on this, your tracks haven't been used to trying to feel like a hang feeling because they've always been a little bit tense. So they're used to that tension, they're not used to that hang fatigue. Okay, because it's a different way that the muscles they're still working, don't get me wrong, but they're doing it in a slightly different fashion. Okay. And that's the whole key, is figuring out, is it fatigue from overworking, or is it fatigue from actually it's doing its job differently? Okay. And that's what I always find when if I really focus on the hang and the lats and that type of thing, then I sort of get a little bit more up here in my triceps, because I'm really trying to think of this hang and then think of the draw through here, right? Which is sort of all of that muscle group up here and behind your arms. Okay. And that's when I know I've been getting quite a good hang, just because these smaller muscles are the ones that are holding that, they're holding, and they're just starting to get fatigued. They're not working hard, right? They're not burning. They just feel tired. Okay. And that's what we want to know. And that's what we want to feel. Okay. Don't want to feel like, you know, we all know it with our forearms. When your forearms get super tense, they burn, right? They tense, they feel tight. And that's when we know we've been gripping it too hard, right? Or the focus has been, really trying to hold on to the weight through our hands. And so if we can alleviate that slightly, we're still going to feel like they've been working, but there's just going to be a different reaction to that. Okay. Ah, lovely. Oh, my butt. It's always my butt. It's always a good sign. Got a sore butt, I'm using my glutes. Okay. It's as simple as that. My force curve has always been flat at the start because you taught us not to pull too hard at the catch. Perfect. Okay. Um, mine Mine is because I know, using the force curve, it's a really good thing to like experiment with, right? As you're doing stuff, you can try different things and you can be like, if I really get it off the front, you might find that your force curve starts up the graph on that, which is the X and Y axis. Fuck, I can't even remember. Sort of remember my maths. X, Y, no, fuck, whatever. Left, the vertical one might start higher up that way. And that's fine, right? It means that you're getting it quite quickly at the front. Okay, the take up period is short. Okay, now is that take up period short because you're grabbing it, or are you just using the body like really quickly? It's a difficult one to know, right? But if you're getting it up there and then it's still smooth all the way, great. Okay, but it's this whole thing of those small things of whether if it can start just up on the side, okay, just up on the side, then there's a nice patience around the front. And both ways could be giving you the same result. But one way could be a little bit more patient and have a lot more longevity over a row or a piece than the one if you're getting a little bit more energy off the start to get it going. Okay. And having it nice and patient and smooth off the front, yes, Robo, is allowing you to feel the take up of that stroke. Okay. And that's really good. And then all you got to do from that point is start to feel, okay, I'm feeling this smoothness and this take up off the front. Can I just feel it a little bit quicker? Right. So as you're pushing, we're taking it up and we're feeling it. Then the next one is, can I just take it up a little bit quicker? Okay. But ultimately, that's the way we need to be doing it, because the biggest thing that everybody does, right? We're all guilty of it. I was guilty of it for years. I can try, till I was figuring it out, is getting that body starting too early. Okay. And that is the most common cause of a high front ended force curve, using the body early. Now, nothing, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. It just limits your potential, right? That's what I've always said. If you use your body too early, okay, right? I'd like you not to, because I feel like you can get more longer in the long run by allowing it right through the stroke, right? Because if we start, think about it in terms of angles, right? If we start and we do that, right, we've got a longer arc of angle as we're driving. We start here, we do that, it's a shorter arc of angle. Okay. And that's the absolute simplicity, okay, of the body swing through the drive. Okay. We started early. Okay. Whatever. Right. But if we can hold it and get that arc longer, perfect, right? There's a difference between that arc and that arc. Okay. And all it could be 5 seconds on 1,000 meters, 2K, whatever. But it will make you go faster if you can make that arc wider. Okay. And that's what that patience and all of that is about. Nice solid workout. Yep. The X line is the horizontal and the Y is the vertical. Thanks, pal. The force curve, a little on the front, but fades down towards the end. Okay. That's fine. Okay. But remember, is it smooth? When you're taking the stroke, does it look relatively smooth? Is it, if we see a lot of jaggedness in it, that's what we want to remove. Okay. And as I say, just jump on and row for a few strokes and try different things. Use the body really early off the front, see what it does to the force curve. Hold the body really late and go for it, and you'll see the force curve does that. Okay. And what it is it's literally giving you, like, the feedback right there. There it is. Okay. And that's why it's a great tool to use. But the problem with it is that you do one stroke and you see it back ended. So then the next stroke, you go off the front, then you're like, fuck, it's off the front. Then you go, oh shit, now it's off the back, now it's off the front. Right. And you're just jumping between these. Oh shit, it's real wonky, blah, blah, blah. And you got to remember that it's the trend, over a few strokes, see what it's doing, see how it's going, make some adjustments. Then, oh, there it is. There's the feedback. It's there in front of you. And that's what it's got to be useful, because otherwise, honestly, I when we used to be in the team, people have put force gates on and they'd measure all this data in a row, and then they'd be needing the data every time. I want to see it at the halfway. Oh, can we stop and check it? Can we stop and do this? And it's like, look, you need a trend. Go away, make adjustments, come back, check on it, see if it's changed slightly, do that. Because otherwise, you're just going to bounce, 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 bounce. Shit. Oh, that's good. That one's shit. That one's good. That one's shit. That one's good. That one's shit. And so that's why it's important to remember over a period of time. Okay. My force curves seem to extend more to the right. Yeah. So if the peak of it, obviously, trying to look if I can left and right. I'll go this way because it's for you guys. Boom. So if it's more like the middle, if the peak's more on the left, it just means that you're holding the body swing until slightly after the middle of the stroke. Okay. And so it's not a bad thing to have. Or when you're pushing with the drive, then you're really thinking about taking the body. Okay, so you're pushing and you're feeling the drive, right? So tend to be the back-ended stuff is that you're taking the drive and then you're really starting to feel the power, or you're using the body power, okay, in that second half to really try and swing back. As I say, nothing wrong with it. Okay. But if we can try and get it so that as we're driving and then through the middle, we feel it to be more of a consistent swing through that drive, okay, we can bring it back into the middle a little bit better. And then that will allow, as I say, closer to our potential. And that's all we're looking for here, right? Is we're looking to get better. Okay. And everything that we do, everything that we try, we all have our own potential, right? In our current state, in a state that we could be in a in a while. Okay. But it's just trying to find out the best way to do it, right? And as I'm saying, I'm just trying to guide you in the direction of what I know of when you can have a nice smooth curve, you can have the bell shape, you can stay relaxed, you've got more energy to do a faster time. Okay, we're not going to be, really ripping ourselves to the finish. Because one of the things is if we really go back-ended, what tends to happen is that we're using a lot of effort towards the back, and it can the cause and effect of it is that then we come into the body and then we sort of lose our rhythm around the back. Okay. So nothing, as I say, nothing wrong with it. It's just if we can try and bring it back to more that centered smoothness of that curve. Sorry, I'll go this way for you guys. That is more towards the best potential and the best way that we can do it. Okay. And that's all I'm trying to guide you guys towards. Okay. It was great what I needed. My low back has been a bit tight. Beginning, I was feeling it, but as I went on back, somewhere relaxed, rest of the row was very enjoyable. Thanks, Pims. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, uh, I've been building a garage, my sleep out, and I'll tell you what, we've been fucking lifting some heavy stuff, and that's why for the last week and a bit, I'm just not sleeping well, and I've been tired. I've been to see the physio. Don't worry, I had a massage. But it's one of these things, right? I'm not super used to sort of doing that much physical work. Do a lot of physical work, but not that much heavy lifting. And that's just what happens, right? And this is what we've got to understand. It's no different. We do too much rowing, we can start to get sore in certain places, that type of thing. Thanks for explaining the concept of the force curve with such visualization tool to analyze each stroke. Yeah. And that's it, right? And I do like this is the thing with this machine is that there's multiple ways to use it, right? Interval trainings, resistance, speed, use the force curve, okay, use the settings. And there's just so much we can do with it. And of course, the hardest thing to do is get the coaching of our technique, right? And unless we have someone beside us pointing, prodding, yeah, that's it, that's good. Yeah, try this, or hang, whatever. I'm I'm vocalizing it to you guys, and you've probably seen a lot of it because I'd like to think I'm pretty good or pretty close to being good in terms of what I know. Okay, I wouldn't say I'm super fast at the moment in terms of my speed, but I know how to make it do its thing. Okay. And so that's what we need to figure out ourselves and go, I know what I can currently do, and this is the feeling. I'm watching my force curve, and this is my feedback. So, okay, if I slightly adjust something and I spend the next little while working on certain parts to try and shift the force curve or make it smoother for longer or whatever it is. Okay, we've got the potential to increase our speed, go faster. Okay, try and hit our goals or do what we're doing, make it slightly easier, or for a longer period of time. Because there's nothing worse than when we're struggling away. But that's the thing is we are going to struggle away, right? Because making adjustments and making that change is the hardest thing. Okay, no, actually, it's the easiest thing. It's managing to hold those changes, as I've always said, right? It's really easy to learn something new and to do something new in a different way. It's really hard to break our habits, what we've been doing. That's just what I do. Okay, getting rid of that and making sure that we're trying to get it to a place that could be better for ourselves. Okay, perfect. Enough chit chat. Lot to do. Your form and fluidity is what I try and mimic. Yes, boy. Yeah, thanks, pal. Yeah, it is, and that's the thing is that it should be fluid, right? It should be smooth. It should be fluid. Okay, it shouldn't be jerky. It shouldn't be super like rigid and stiff. We've got elasticity, right? You don't see runners, upright, fucking like this, right? It just looks smooth and fluid. They've got tension, a little bit of tension in their arms, but I guarantee you they're not like trying to pull their arms back to the front, right? There's that movement, you see them. Even sprinters, right? There's they're going so fast, right? But there's elements in their thing when they're going to like put their foot down. They're not trying to stamp it down as they're sprinting, right? When you slow that down in slow motion, you can see that yes, there's power to drive, but then there's these moments of like smoothness and relaxation. And that's what we try and do here is to yes, we're tight, we've got to have we've got to have that tension and the power to hold what we're doing in the stroke, but then we should be fluid. We should be relaxed. We should use that time on the recovery. We shouldn't have to try and slow ourselves to get to this point at the front. It should just roll in and happen, right? Because you guys have done it, and I bet you that's one of the biggest things. And I know a few people that I've been working with, just like, oh, I used to really try and slow into the front and then try and feel like I was at the front. And I'm like, you fucking can't go any further than your body's going to let you. Right. So why the hell are you trying to fucking get, back there and slow yourself to be in this stiff, rigid position? Stiff and rigid, you get there. Like how are you meant to like, change direction if you're like, it's like, whereas if you've got that elasticity, right? There's that, it's like that accordion style. It's just like it's moving and there's that got to have that change, we can't just go, so yeah, nah, we're good. Okay. Perfect team. Thank you. I'm out of here. Keep up the good work. Keep training. I'm probably going to be up north next week, so we'll probably be doing a nice vista for the live stream. Either the live stream or else I'll record something. I'll just see how temperamental the old internet is up there. We're waiting for Starlink. So yeah, but otherwise, keep up the good work, team. Well done. Keep trucking, keep working on things, and we'll see you guys later. Peace out.